إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We begin in the name of Allah, Almighty God, the most merciful, the granter of mercy. All praise and glory belongs to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Certainly Allah is deserving of the best of thanks and the most beautiful praises, and we thank Him and we praise Him and we rush to Him seeking His forgiveness and His protection and His guidance and the exit He provides from the evil whispers within us and the evil consequences of our misdeeds. For whomever Allah Azza wa Jal guides, no one can lead astray, and whomever Allah, in His infinite fairness and perfect wisdom, leaves astray, none can guide. And we testify that no one is worthy of our worship, our devotion, our focus, our love, our obedience in the absolute sense but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the glorified and exalted alone without any partners. And that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was the best of his creation and the seal of his revelation and his mercy to the world by the guidance he brought, the warnings he carried, and the glad tidings he delivered. We ask Allah to send His finest peace and blessings upon His Messenger Muhammad, and to send for us an inspiration to follow his path until the day we are surrounded with him, alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma ameen. And here we are at the last Jum'ah of Ramadan. Yesterday we welcomed it and now we bid it farewell. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those that even if it's in these last hours, if we did not do our due diligence, showing gratitude to Allah in welcoming this honored guest, that we do an even better job at bidding it farewell, for this is what matters most. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. That actions are ultimately judged, considered by Allah in light of what they are sealed upon. So may Allah give our Ramadan a blessed seal, and give our lives a blessed seal, and give our questioning in front of Allah the best of endings and best of outcomes. Allahumma ameen. And so what's your plan for after Ramadan? How do you plan on retaining those gains? Keeping a bit of that purity, not getting smudged again with the mud that Allah washed off of you with another Ramadan. The forgiveness that inshallah He has granted, be confident in that. The guidance and the perspective that He has opened up in your heart to see things the way you once used to see them, or the way that you've never seen them before. Allah Azza wa Jal strikes so many examples in the Quran to help us better understand, because with examples things become clear. And so one of these examples is the example of the tree of faith that Allah Azza wa Jal mentions when He says, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا شَجَرَةً كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ تُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا. Allah strikes an example for you. He presents a similitude, a comparison for you to be able to draw a parallel, understand how things work. The example of a good, beautiful word. And so many of the early Muslims, they knew it. It was understood without even being explicitly stated. This word is when your heart says La ilaha illallah, when your tongue says La ilaha illallah. It's the word of faith. It's your commitment to Allah. That statement. Allah strikes an example for that beautiful word of faith. كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. It's like a beautiful, pure, blessed tree. أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ. Its roots are deeply trenched in the ground. It's anchored with firmness that cannot be uprooted. Its roots are deep in the ground. وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. And it reaches amazing heights, this tree. It goes above and beyond this world. It reaches into the skies, into the heavens. Then he says, not just that, تُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ. It yields its fruits, it renders its fruits all the time, بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا, by permission from its Lord. And so this is the tree of faith. It is deeply rooted in the ground, and it extends so far in every direction, and it renders fruits not seasonally. And likewise is the believer. When the tree of faith is implanted in their heart, and its roots are solid and firm, it renders fruits all year round. That doesn't mean that you may not have a high season in your fruit production in Ramadan. That's expected, normal. Don't get depressed after Ramadan if all cannot be retained. But to understand the fluctuation of faith, Allah is making things easy for you, telling you, listen, if it's deeply rooted, it will keep growing. And there will always be fruits even if they lessen. And so it will not be a seasonal tree. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for after Ramadan to retain our faith, even if we're not going to keep the caliber of Ramadan, to not go back to where we were before Ramadan, to continue tasting the sweetness of these fruits, to continue providing these fruits to our scale of good deeds, continue serving our destiny. And so Ramadan is the high season, but this tree has no off season. This is the first thing we need to understand. The second thing is Allah wants you to think about this parable. Like look how similar you are to a tree. Can this tree survive, render any fruit at all, if it is not taken care of? Doesn't a tree require a fertile land, a fertile soil? Not something that's dry, arid, not something that's without nutrients, not something that's rocky and the roots can't move easily, get deeper and deeper inside. So a tree requires firm roots, a fertile soil for its roots to extend and to suck up what it needs to produce. But if there is fertile land, if the earth is good, but the climate is not, so you have awesome topsoil, you have excellent land under you, but the problem is that it's been a long winter. It's been too long without the proper atmosphere. Can the tree survive? It cannot survive. And what if there is fertile soil and there is the right climate around you, the temperature is about right, but there's no sunlight. There are no rays of light so that the tree can produce as it produces, go through that process. Likewise, your faith requires these factors as well. The same way the tree, the fruits will not be readily available unless these things are regularly available, that help it, that are conducive to its growth, conducive to the tree's health. Likewise, your tree of Iman. It needs something to dig deep into, something to anchor it, something to feed that faith and soak up faith. And that is salah. Among many other things. But what better than salah? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said to us, "Istaqimu wa lan tuhsu." Be upright. You want the tree not to fall over? He's telling you, be straight. And you will not be able to. Meaning you will not be able to at all times in all places. You're not going to be able to be an angel. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ خَيْرَ أَعْمَالِكُمُ الصَّلَاةِ. But know that the best of your deeds is prayer. That is the strongest factor to keep you upright. To keep you straight on this path you started walking on towards Allah Azza wa Jal. And then the right atmosphere. Of the greatest reasons why we are told to keep good company in Islam is because goodness is contagious. And so you need to make salah, but how much better is your salah when you're not squeezing it in a cubicle somewhere all day, every day without exception. But when you come and you pray with your brothers, you're not just rushing through the salah. You may even look at them and say, look at how focused he is, look how hard he's trying, look how consistent he is every single night. And so that is the climate. Even if it's not a perfect climate, it's a very useful climate. Because we are social creatures, we identify with those around us. And then if you have a fertile soil, your surrounding climate is nice, you cannot survive without rays of light. Too long under the clouds will destroy almost any tree. And so you constantly need to revisit, re-grip, reassert your grip on the rope that Allah sent that He called a light. It's not just sunlight. There is the light of guidance that Allah sent down in His book. وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا, He calls it. Follow this light that we sent down for you. It needs, your tree needs constant visits to hear Allah's words, to reset its mindset, to reset its heart set, even its insight. You need to pull out of all the things that people are telling you, or people are doing and saying with their actions, if you will, and you need to go back to hearing the voice of the Messenger ﷺ through the storm, through the ruckus, through the lies. And so anchoring yourself in salah after this month of Ramadan, and solidifying your relationship with the believers, and hearing the voice of the Messenger ﷺ. A statement for him here, a whisper from him there, a hadith and a reminder each night. These three things together can put you in good standing for survival. Regardless of anything else, hold on to these three. And I want to ask you another question. Can these three ever come together in a better place than the masjid? Where you will be anchored in your prayer, praying a more meaningful prayer. Where you will see believers that you don't have to know them personally. You don't even have to like them. But there are qualities in them that you need to draw from them. And where are you going to hear the words of Allah and His Messenger? Than His house, which He deemed to be a lighthouse for the world that's filled with darkness. And so let that be, wherever your masjid is, wherever is closest to you, let that be your Ramadan resolution right now. I haven't been praying Isha in the masjid, I'll add one thing. I'll pray Isha in the masjid. I haven't been praying Fajr, I'm going to add Fajr to the masjid. I'm going to go to my children and I'm going to tell them I messed up. And I've been taking you to so many places consistently. And I want you to forgive me. And I want you to help me make up for what I did. And you bring them to Allah's house. Regardless of what the house is, regardless of what's wrong with that house. That's a bare minimum. This is the first message. The second message is, what is more unfortunate? A child that is afraid of the dark, or an adult that is afraid of the light? This is a wise statement that a person should really linger on. Children are afraid of the dark because they don't know what's in the dark. They don't know, maybe there's a boogie monster. Maybe there's something to be afraid of. But isn't it worse that someone knows what's going on and chooses not to recognize it? And so with your children, you see all of the symptoms flaring for a certain diagnosis, and you choose not to notice. And I'm going to be frank here for the next 15 minutes of the khutbah. You see that your children are far less connected with understanding Allah's words than you. And it's increasing with every day. Even if you don't understand Arabic, you understand Quranic concepts that are leaking from our families one generation at a time. Don't you see that your children have values that you had values they do not have today? And it's not seemingly getting any better. We don't need the Pew Research forums to tell us, and as if they established that second generation Muslims in America, 23% of them refuse to identify as Muslims. Which means that 77% of them are Muslim, Allahu A'lam how. Even if Muslim by name, 23% are just gone, I refuse to be called Muslim. We don't need statistics to say these things. I don't need to tell you that us as imams, we have children coming to us and saying to us, I wish I was Christian. Why? You haven't even studied world religions. Because of all the decorations at Christmas. And may Allah bless the brother that came to me. He may not know what he did. He came and said, here are $2,000. I want you to buy gifts for all the kids for Eid. And they'll be distributed at Eid, inshallah. But you don't need statistics. You don't need to hear as much as I hear to know these things. 77% may be Muslim nominally, by name. And if push comes to shove, when there are Muslims being smeared everywhere, and every once in a while a Muslim gets hurt somewhere, why should I hold on to a name if it's just a name? This is the reality we're living in today. And do you know why that is? It's because we have refused to acknowledge that we did not place for them an environment, a climate for their tree to thrive. We did not place for them a place where the tree of faith can survive. And that's my message to this community here. We are beyond late in putting together a masjid like that of the Prophet ﷺ. Not in only holding 1,000 people, not a masjid that is sand in the ground and palm fibers up top, a masjid that served every need, a masjid that was a sanctuary, a malja, a malad for the believers and their faith. Almost everywhere I go, it has not clicked yet. We're ignoring that this is our greatest emergency. We resign to the fact so many times that what can I do? I cannot change the world. I cannot take on the world. Do not overlook what you can do because of the things that you cannot currently do. There are non-Muslims that this has clicked for. Had that been the mentality of Rachel Corrie, for example, who's a non-Muslim, who went all the way to Gaza to try to stop the illegal settlements there, and she's not Muslim, and she was killed doing that by a bulldozer. She did not say, oh, it's none of my business, I'll just stay in my Midwest home in America. What can I do? I cannot take on the world. Had that been the mentality of Abdul Rahman al-Sumayt, rahimahullah, who I mentioned last Ramadan, there would not be 11 million more Muslims in Africa in the lifetime of one man, at this man's hands. There would not be 9,500 more wells. There would not be 5,700 masajid. There would not be 204 Islamic centers. There would not be 15,000 orphans being taken care of, because one man who didn't have money to donate to all of this, but he did not overlook the things he could do. He would travel from place to place and stay away from his family for 10 months a year. And they would come to him sometimes in the difficult jungles of Africa, leaving the luxuries of their lives in Kuwait. And this man's a physician. Until he caused the change to happen. If this was the mentality of our Prophet ﷺ, when he was walking to Badr, and the Sahaba relieved him of the task, relieved him of the responsibility, they said, you keep riding, we'll walk, instead of alternating. He said to them, لَسْتُ مَا بِأَقْوَى عَلَى الْمَشْيِ مِنِّي وَلَا أَنَا بِأَغْنَى عَنْ الْأَجْرِ مِنْكُمْ. I am not less in need of the reward than you. I need this. And you are not more capable of walking than me. I have to carry my share as well, whatever that share may be. We cannot just resign and say, it's just the tides are too high, the waves are too high, there's nothing we can do. There is much we can do, far beyond donating. We can even get other people to donate. We can volunteer. We can make this masjid. Let's start here, not to build a masjid, but to build a movement. I told you at the beginning of Ramadan that we're going to have to put together the funds to remodel this place quickly. But this is our opportunity. I want you to think about the people that could be brought back to life before this Ramadan. And they hear this khutbah. What kind of panic mode, sense of urgency would they be in because they feel like they have one more opportunity? It is not going to be them. So let it be you. We need a masjid. We need a masjid like the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. A masjid where the light of Islam shines. A masjid where the equality of Islam is realized between Arabs and non-Arabs, between everybody. A masjid where people feel that our youth feel, I don't have to give up my rationale, my science, my facts that I learned to follow my religion. A masjid where people can feel belonging to this ummah. Wallahi, this is a great, 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 great ummah. And this is not the most difficult time in the ummah. But we will either step up to the plate, or else Allah will liberate this ummah from us. And He will bring about new people that are more deserving of His pleasure than us. We need the masjid. Allah does not need it. Islam does not need it. Islam is invincible. Islam never set in any land except that it rose like the sun somewhere else. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says to us about the immediate task at hand, because the khutbah is running out of time. ها أنتم تدعون لتنفقوا في سبيل الله فمنكم من يبخل. Here you are being called to spend in the way of Allah. And spending is not just money. Though if you have money, don't look at why didn't this guy spend, why didn't that guy. Allah gave you the ability to spend, the guidance to be interested in spending. I know, wallahi, one brother, people don't spend, they look at him in New York. If he would have given 20, I would have given 20. And I know from this man, personally, this physician, that right before Ramadan, he was whacked with a penalty of $180,000. And so look at this guy who deprived himself, comparing him to that guy. And he didn't know that Allah gave him much more than he gave that guy. Allah said, I'm inviting you to spend from whatever I've given you, your time, your wealth, sacrifice in the path of Allah. He says, and some of you hold back. And whomever holds back, فَإِنَّمَا يَبْخَلُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. You're withholding from yourself. وَاللَّهُ الْغَنِيُّ وَأَنْتُمُ الْفُقَرَاءُ. And Allah is free of need. And you are the ones that are dependent on this. Allah does not need a masjid. And then he says at the end of the ayah, something that fills the ummah with hope, but it's very scary for our generation. وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. Allah has no needs, the need is yours, for Him and His pleasure. He says, and if you turn away, He will replace you with another people, and they will not be like you. May Allah Azza wa Jal not replace us with a generation more deserving of Him. May Allah make our children better than us, but make that because of us, not at the expense of us. Allahumma ameen. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله. A person may wonder, is this the most relevant topic for the last khutbah in Ramadan? And I believe it certainly is. Because if we're not going to break out of our shells before the simulation mode is over, before shaitan comes back, then when exactly? If we're not going to place a balance with ourselves, with Allah, for ourselves and our children, then we can be susceptible from every direction once the enemies come back after Ramadan. I have two fears for this community. The first of them is that this masjid takes too long to develop, structurally. That a measly $250,000 is not collected fast enough, and so we get susceptible to human nature. We lose wind, we lose confidence, we wonder if it's ever going to be fruitful or not, and it slows down. Or it happens and just, it's too late. One man invited me to his masjid in Virginia, and he came to my hotel room before the khutbah, and he said, I came to this country 30 years ago, and I came from the airport to the gas station, and I made enough money till I bought my own gas stations, and I built my own masjid for $4 million, and my children have left Islam. I think I'm too late. May Allah never allow us and you to stand that standing, to be in that situation. I spoke to his son time and time again. He would be convinced for a few minutes and then get sucked back into the tornadoes outside. And now he's insisting on changing his name because Muhammad is the name of my enemy, he says. Alayhi salatu wassalam. That's my first fear. My second fear for this community, and this is a result of the first, is that this becomes a masjid, it becomes an impressive building for bragging rights. And we don't remove everything, monetary, social, personal, emotional, to make sure this masjid serves us on our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I close this khutbah reminding you that Allah has spent on you so you may spend for His sake. And if you spend for His sake, He will spend on you more. And it's always the same people who donate because no one ever loses their money from donating. And I want to remind you to not stop there because your Prophet ﷺ said, Ishfa'u tu'jaru. And I want to remind you that tomorrow morning there will be a list. And it could be the last list in Ramadan that our Prophet ﷺ spoke about when he said, ما من يوم يصبح في تطلع فيه الشمس إلا ويبعث على جنبتيه ملكان يناديان يا أيها الناس هلموا إلى ربكم فإنما قل وكفى خير مما كثر وألهى. And this hadith is because even if you weren't going to get your money back. Even if you weren't. Even if Allah had not promised that. He promised that the promise would be kept. But even if He didn't promise that, He said every single morning when the sun rises, Allah sends on its two sides, rising with it, two angels, calling out to humanity. You cannot hear them with your ears, but you hear them with your heart, because your Prophet ﷺ never spoke anything but truth. They call out and they say, "O humankind, hurry up and rush to your Lord. For what is little," meaning don't get caught up, "whatever is little and enough is so much better than what is plenty and distracting." He says, and then the sun does not set on that day, except that there's a list made. A list of very special dua by the angels, where they say for those on that list, Allahumma a'ti munfiqan khalafa, Allahumma a'ti mumsikan talafa. Oh Allah, give those who spend. Spend of your money, spend of your time, spend of your reputation, spend of your rest, spend of your comfort. Give those who spend more. And oh Allah, give destruction, give ruin to those who withhold. And those who withhold, withhold from themselves. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said to us, when he was asked what is the best charity to give, he said, أَن تَصَدَّقْ وَأَنْتَ صَحِيحٌ شَحِيحٌ. Give in charity while you're still healthy, while you're still holding on to the money. تَأْمَلُ الْغِنَى وَتَخْشَى الْفَقْرِ. While you are still hopeful to become rich, still fearful to become poor. Everyone's worried about the rainy day they need to save money for. The rainiest day is the day of judgment catches you by surprise. That the angel of death says, that's it, no more days, no more Ramadans, no more salawat, no more sajdat. He says while you're still fearing poverty, he says, وَلَا تُمْهِلْ, and don't put it off. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ الْحُلْقُومِ, until your soul is at your throat choking you, you say this is for so-and-so and this is for so-and-so. Everyone wants to be charitable on deathbed. Everyone wants to be charitable when they get sick. Everyone wants to be charitable in the hospital. Because things get very real in those moments. He says the best charity is the charity of the one who does it before that. Far more rewarding in the sight of Allah. There are a bunch of envelopes that our youth have prepared, holding for you after the salah. There are 5 envelopes for $10,000. And there are 10 envelopes for $5,000. And 10 envelopes for $2,500. And 20 envelopes for $1,000. If we collect those, we will be almost finished with the plans that we will explain to you tonight at Tarawih for the masjid, to rush this, so that we can get to the services. We can get past the building, get past the structure. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us and you worthy to serve His cause, worthy of His pleasure. Allahumma ameen. May Allah forgive us for what He knows about us, and to free our necks this Ramadan from the fire. May Allah never subject us or our children to the doubts and the desires that derail us from walking towards Him safely. May Allah grant us a proper standing in front of Him where our faces are brightened, and our scales are made heavy, and our books are received with their right hands. May Allah rescue this ummah through us, and make our contributions a movement to be replicated in other places and other masajid. May Allah use us for His deen and not replace us. Protect us and to not leave us without His guardianship. May Allah Azza wa Jalla not leave us to ourselves for the blink of an eye. Not deprive us from the month of Ramadan and its mercies. Not deprive us from the month of Ramadan and the joy it will render on the Day of Judgment. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma aghfir lana warhamna wa ila ghayrika la takilna. Ighfir lana ma qaddamna wa ma akharna wa ma asrarna wa ma a'lanna wa ma anta a'lamu bihi minna. Allahumma taqabbal minna Ramadan. واكتب لنا رمضان أعواما عديدة وأزمنة مديدة واجعلنا فيه من المقبولين إنك عفو اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم انصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين واقبلنا في خدمة دينك ربنا واجعلها خالصة لوجهك اكتب لنا في هذه الساعة توبة لا ننكثها أبدا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.